Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're exploring a truly fascinating place, the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History. But we're not just looking at it as some building on the National Mall. We're going to explore it as a living, breathing timeline of American innovation. It's a place where history isn't just hidden away in dusty textbooks, it's brought to life right in front of you through the physical artifacts that completely transformed how we live. Understanding this timeline is absolutely crucial because it shows us exactly how human ingenuity stepped up to solve the huge challenges of every single era, basically shaping the foundation of our modern world. Now, to put the sheer scale of this place into perspective, the museum's collection currently houses over 1.8 million objects. I mean, that is a staggering amount of history under one roof. We're talking about absolutely everything from massive military vehicles to microscopic scientific instruments. It's got pop culture icons, pivotal political documents, and just the everyday tools of American life. It is literally the ultimate repository for the country's material culture, capturing those giant national shifts right alongside our quiet daily routines. Okay, let's dive into it. With nearly 2 million artifacts, it begs a fascinating question. How do curators actually decide which objects tell the story of American innovation? Because it's easy to walk in and think it's just a massive, random assortment of old stuff, but the true magic is in the curation. How do these specific objects track the chronological trajectory of national change? And how do they show us the exact moments when a tiny spark of genius fundamentally altered history? Well, let's trace that timeline together. Welcome to the National Attic. So, the museum is affectionately known by a lot of people as the National Attic, but its core mission to document the United States has actually evolved beautifully over the decades. When it first opened its doors back in 1964, it was called the Museum of History and Technology. But in 1980, they made this brilliant philosophical shift and renamed it the National Museum of American History. Why? Because it signaled a massive shift away from just showcasing cool industrial machines in isolation. Instead, it was all about exploring how those specific machines actually shaped everyday people, fueled major social movements, and impacted the diverse cultures making up the nation. Part 2. Early Sparks of Invention. Let's move to and see how this builds, starting our chronological journey in the 19th century. This was an era absolutely defined by early sparks of invention. We saw a massive flurry of mechanical patents rapidly shifting America away from a largely agricultural society and into this burgeoning industrial powerhouse. You can track this transformation right through the decades. We go from the John Bull locomotive in 1831 to a revolutionary loom patent in 1837 to a sewing machine in 1854 and eventually the Winton automobile in 1903. Each of these was a monumental leap in how Americans lived and worked. Zooming in on that 1837 mark, we find Samuel P. Mason's self-adjusting loom temple. Now, it might just look like a small piece of wood and metal, but it is a major tangible mile marker of early industrial progress. Before this little device, weavers literally had to stop their work constantly to manually stretch the fabric so the edges wouldn't pull in and tear. Mason's temple automated that whole tensioning process. It dramatically sped up weaving, reduced torn fabric, and became an absolute cornerstone for mechanizing textile production, which of course fueled early American industry and massive economic growth. Then, a little further down the timeline, in 1854, we run into Walter Hunt's sewing machine patent model. And guys, this wasn't just some clever gadget. The single invention represented a massive societal shift for both domestic life and factory manufacturing. By using an eye-pointed needle and an interlocking shuttle, it fundamentally changed the speed at which clothing could be made. This sparked the rise of the whole ready-to-wear clothing industry, completely reshaped women's labor dynamics in homes and factories, and actually ignited some of the very first major patent wars in American legal history. Part 3. Moving a growing nation. As the nation expanded geographically, especially pushing out west, innovation had to adapt to brand new challenges. The biggest problem? Mobility. How do you efficiently move people, goods, and ideas across vast, really unforgiving distances? Well, the answer started with the awesome power of steam. The museum houses the 1831 John Bull locomotive, which is incredibly one of the oldest operable steam engines in the entire world. And what's absolutely wild about this literal engine of the American railroad age is that it was imported from Britain in pieces and had to be completely assembled in New Jersey without a single written instruction. Seriously, no instructions. By the turn of the 20th century, that massive scale of mobility became highly personal. Take a look at the 1903 Winton.
It is famously known as the very first car to be driven all the way across the United States. To truly appreciate this feat, you have to remember that in 1903, there were barely any paved roads between major cities. We're talking muddy wagon trails and unmapped wilderness. This grueling journey was not just a stunt. It sparked a massive cultural shift. It proved personal automobiles were reliable, totally altered the pace of daily life, and laid the literal groundwork for the car culture that completely defines modern America today.
Part 4, The Rise of Enterprise. So the crucial point is that massive technological breakthroughs require an economic engine to actually bring them to the public, right? The museum's American Enterprise exhibit perfectly maps how these inventions fueled the rise of modern capitalism and commerce. They break down this massive topic into 4 chronological eras. It starts with the merchant's world of early colonial trade, which built up the capital needed to trigger the corporation era of heavy industrialization. That industrial boom naturally fed into the consumer era. Think mass production and a total explosion of advertising, which ultimately laid the infrastructure for our current digital age. And right at the entry to that digital age, the museum spotlights early Apple computers. These are the pivotal artifacts that shifted the American economy away from traditional factories and firmly into the digital frontier. Artifacts like the original Apple Macintosh didn't just give us new computing power, they introduced the graphical user interface to the masses. It completely democratized computing. Suddenly, these machines weren't just for military bases or elite universities anymore, they were literally placed onto the desks of everyday people, fundamentally altering global communication, business, and just the entire fabric of our daily lives. Part 5, Studying the Inventive Mind. You see, innovation isn't just about patents, corporations, or cold, hard machinery. It is fundamentally about the human beings behind them. And the museum actively studies this crucial human element through the Lemeson Center, which was founded back in 1995. Rather than just staring at the objects, they examine how an idea actually goes from a raw concept to a real working thing. They deeply study the wildly diverse backgrounds of the inventors themselves, and most importantly, they analyze how those creations create massive technological and social impact while also tackling modern complexities like environmental sustainability and intellectual property. A signature artifact that perfectly encapsulates this spirit of human curiosity is the 1865 Vassar telescope. It's a landmark piece on the museum floor that reminds us of our profound drive to explore and understand the universe. But what makes this piece truly incredible is the person who used it, Maria Mitchell, America's first widely recognized professional female astronomer. Her groundbreaking work with this exact instrument proves that the bedrock of all great leaps in innovation really comes from the diverse backgrounds, unique perspectives, and relentless curiosity of the inventors themselves. Part 6, Inspiring Tomorrow's Innovators. Ultimately, the whole goal of preserving these 1.8 million artifacts isn't just to look backward at what we've already done, it's about actively using the past to inspire the future. Through hands-on, highly interactive spaces like Spark Lab, the museum encourages young visitors to get directly involved in the inventive process. As the Lemelson Center beautifully puts it, invention is an innate human activity practiced across all cultures and times. And this brilliantly illustrates why understanding our history is so crucial. Innovation isn't limited to a specific type of person or a specific era. It's a universal part of the human experience. Which leaves us with a truly fascinating thought to end on. As we reflect on the steam locomotives, the early personal computers, the revolutionary sewing machines, and all the incredible artifacts housed in our national attic, we have to wonder, what comes next? What completely unexpected breakthroughs, what new sparks of genius will the next generation add to this living timeline of American innovation? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep wondering, keep exploring the history around you, and we'll see you next time.